Hey y'all, it's Dawn at Daydream Manor Flower Farm. I'm in Zone 8B in South Louisiana, and it's another rainy day. This kind of sucks because I really wanted to get out into the field and kind of show y'all around what's growing, more likely what's not growing, and do a little quick walkthrough of the vegetables, but it doesn't look like that's happening today. And it wasn't even supposed to rain. Like, the forecast this week was like 10% every day. So far, it's rained every day. Okay. Well, so now we're just going to shift gears. But, you know what? Let's talk about the high tunnel. I did get a couple of emails about starting that process, so I'll share with you what I know. And then I also want to talk about something else I'm going to expand into growing more of. So, hold on, let's just go back inside and get set up there. All right, I said I was going to set up inside, but then there is a break in the rain, and I decided just to come sit outside on the front porch. Anyway, all right, so let's talk about first what I want to expand into growing more of. I want to grow more gourds. I had so much fun with those, and if you're following me on Instagram, I have been doing some bird houses that I've made out of them. Those have been actually... Surprisingly, I have gotten several orders just over the small little Facebook post I made just saying I was making one, and then all of a sudden people are like, oh, can I get one? But I don't have enough, so and the ones I have I've already sold. So I just had a lot of fun growing them. I just got to figure out where I need to grow them, because if you remember, they take up like a lot of space. They need to be trellised or fenced or something, so I've got to go figure that out. And then I got to break that easily to Mr. Daydream, because, you know, that'll be another project that he'll just roll his eyes at. So anyway, I got to go figure that out. But that's what I really want to grow more of this year. I have some different varieties that I want to try. So I just think they're a lot of fun. All right. So let's talk about the high tunnel situation and how I got there, and give you just some ideas of what or how you can go about starting the process. So for a little bit of backstory, last year I did a small farm academy at one of my local universities here, and one of the guest speakers in one of those presentations was the USDA regional director. And so she came in and did this great presentation and talked about funding opportunities for first-time farmers, new farmers, minorities, veterans. There's a list, and it just so happened everybody who was in the class fell into the first-time farmer, because a new farmer, by definition, through USDA, is 10 years or less. And so she was like, you know, you can go on the website. First thing you need to do, though, is go apply for your farm number. So after the class, came home, got on the website. Yeah. I don't know if it was just me or if it's the website. I don't know. I didn't find the website was user-friendly. Trying to understand the difference, just trying to understand a farm number and what was needed. It just wasn't clear to me, and so I got kind of just frustrated and was like, So I put it aside. Well, 2 weeks later, I was actually attending a Louisiana Women in Ag conference, and in the exhibit hall, the USDA had a booth set up. So I went to go introduce myself to find out some more information, and it just so happened that agent is from my region. And so it was kind of weird. Yeah, you know, the world is very small, 6 degrees of separation, all that good stuff. So I introduced myself to her. You know, I tell her, you know, where I live and that I have this flower farm. And she's like, wait, where do you live? And so I tell her, and she's like, oh, you live in the White House. It's all the way to the back of the property before you get to the bridge. And I'm like, yes. And she goes, ah. And she starts laughing. She said, oh, my sitter for my children live right down the highway from you, so I pass your house every day. So, all right. So we had a little bonding moment there. But it always helps, right? So I told her what I was really interested in. So she said, okay, here's what you do. called the office. The agent that is in charge of that is only there one day a week because he goes to several other offices, and him and his assistant can help you with that. So I come home the next week, I call and send an email as a follow-up, and they're like, yep, come on in, we're here on this day, here's what you need to bring. So I did have to bring my deed to my property, and I had to bring my articles of incorporation for my LLC and my ID. That was the only thing they asked me to bring in. So it's kind of weird how it's set up here because of where I live. So my USDA office is about 30 minutes that way in another parish, and my NRCS agent is in another building that is in another parish 30 minutes the opposite direction. So I'm just like kind of sandwiched in between them, but it's not a big deal. So I head up to my USDA office. I go in, I stand at the counter, and I fill out my paperwork. Yeah, the paperwork was nothing. I know people are like, oh, it's the government, it's going to be all this paper trail, yada, yada. No, it was so not like that. I had a couple of forms to fill out. Really, it was more information on my LLC. I did have to write like this little 2-line that said, myself as the property owner gives my LLC permission to farm on X amount of space. Very informal, but I had to sign it and date it. So that was included. It took, here's what was funny. It took me longer to drive there and drive home than it did to fill out the paperwork. So she told me, the lady in the office said, okay, here's the deal. We will upload all of this into the system. It will make some checks on some things. If everything aligns, you'll get your farm number and you can go to NRCS. So I was like, what's that timeline? She said, I don't know, it just depends. She said, I'll put it in. It just depends on, these other factors, whatever. So I figured a few days. I got home, checked my email, and my farm number was there. So I replied email. I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, this is fantastic. Thank you so much. And she was like, oh, no worries. It was just so happened everything worked out, and there you go. She said, your next step is to go to your NRCS person. And she included their phone number just in case. So I called the NRCS number, left a voicemail, and then I followed up with an email. And about 2 days later, I had the agent call me back and said, okay, so what are you thinking? And I said, well, I'm interested in your EQUIP program, EQUIP, and that is the program that funds high tunnels and pollinator gardens. And I said, so I'm very interested in that, but I don't know anything. So she said, well, do you mind if I come out? She said, I need to see the property anyway, because they do map where you're going to put your high tunnel, and they check to make sure it's not going to impede water flow, that the soil, there's some conditions of the soil you have to have there. So there are some things that they have to do first. I was like, no, come on out. So she came out like on a Friday. She spent like 4 hours out here. It was a great visit. I learned a lot about her. I learned a lot about the program, different opportunities. Y'all, it can be so overwhelming, the opportunities that are available. And so she taught me about cost sharing, what that meant. And so in its simplest form, and look, and do not quote me on these numbers because I'm just making these up for this video. If you wanted to put in a water well and you did a cost sharing with the USDA, with NRCS, they would possibly reimburse up to 50%. Now, I just made that number up because I don't know the true number. Because she threw a lot of numbers at me and I got kind of overwhelmed. And I was like, okay, no, I just need to focus on this high tunnel right now. So we were able to really have that conversation. The reimbursement for the high tunnel is, well, I'll get to that in a minute. Hold on. So we filled out, I had to fill out a few more forms with her, an application. They do like a weighted application. So, if you do a high tunnel plus a pollinator's garden, that gives you a few more points. I opted not to do the pollinators garden right now, just because with the flowers I already have out here, and I just wasn't ready to take that on. We had also had, at the same time, right after she came out, we filled out some paperwork, another agent came out, and he actually spent like 2 hours with Mr. Daydream walking through our wooded property, and they were looking at trash trees and how do you do tree management, and so just some other opportunities there. And we were like, okay, no, we just gotta narrow down just on this high tunnel right now, because I need to understand how the process works before I go off into the into the woods with something else. So we ended up, so we did fill out the paperwork with her, put in the application. The problem was I had already missed the funding deadline for that round of funding. And she knew that, and I knew that, but she was like, look, just fill it out. You never know if there's additional funding or funding that just didn't get allotted. You know, they could always say, who are the next two, or whatever. Let's just put it in. So we did. The paperwork that I filled out with her just took a few minutes. Again, it was more about my LLC ownership. And then, she had to plot out where, we had to show her where we were putting it, because they then get on like Google Maps, they do a plot, and so that was taken care of. I did get a letter like 3-4 weeks later that said, okay, unfortunately you have not been funded, which we knew was coming because we had missed the deadline. But it said, don't worry about, pretty much don't do anything else. You'll be considered in our next round of funding. But I did go ahead and call NRCS, because I was like, so I don't have to do anything. They're like, nope, your application will immediately roll into the next funding pot. Got it. So fast forward, that was like in September-ish. Didn't hear anything, just kind of let it go. In February, I got a email that said, hey, can you come to our office and re-sign your application? We're getting ready to go into our funding cycle, and we need to get this updated. So drove out, signed it. While I was there, the agent started talking to me about getting an estimate. She said, here's what I would say, because it's about to go to funding. She said, this way you can have, if you're approved, then you can have everything kind of aligned. And she said, but here are the requirements. So it has to be a 30 by 50. The center point has to be a minimum of 6 foot. And the sheeting that goes over the plastic has to be a minimum of 5 mil. And she said, and you have to be growing in the ground. She said that are the minimum requirements that we're going to look for when we come out to do inspection. So, okay. I asked for a vendor recommendation. They do not have recommended vendors. One of the other ladies in the office said, look, there is a vendor that is about 2 hours north of here, and that's who a lot of people use. So, of course, came home, did an internet search, got in a Facebook group, found the vendor everybody was using, reached out to them. They called back like within 24 hours. This vendor actually has done, they have a whole section that deals with NRCS high tunnels, so they know the requirements, so that made me feel much better. We walked through just kind of the basics of what we wanted. They sent us the estimate, so we were sitting on it. I got a call on a Wednesday, and it was a young girl, and she was like, hey, we're going to send you a direct deposit slip. Can you fill this out and get us back get this back to us by Monday? And I'm like, well, why? Was I approved? Like, why do you need a direct deposit? And she was like, oh, I don't know, Miss So-and-so is out on vacation. She just left me some notes, and I needed to call and get this from you. I'm like, yeah, just send it to me. So she sent it to me. I filled it out. And the whole time I'm thinking, would they want me to do a direct deposit if I wasn't approved? So I was kind of getting excited, but trying not to get excited. Y'all know that feeling, right? Like, ooh, maybe. So, I was talking to my daughter, and I was like, and she goes, oh my God, you got approved. And I'm like, did I? So we're both like second guessing. I don't know. It was a whole thing. So that Monday, after I sent it back, I sent an email and was like, please let me know if there's anything else. Mr. Daydream, bless his heart, he was like, Lord, if we get approved now, we will be putting this thing together in the hottest months of the year. I'm like, yeah, all right. So anyway, we just kind of waited. And then I was actually getting ready to go on my business trip. And I got an email that said, hey, can you come to the office? Your contract is ready. And I'm like, what? And so I called the lady and she was like, yeah, she said, you have been approved. We need to get all the paperwork together. But you'll have to come in and we'll go through the contract and all of that. And so I was like, yeah, sure. I said, but look, I am leaving. This was like on Tuesday. I said, I am leaving Friday to go on a business trip. I'm going to be gone a week and a half. If we can't, I don't know if you can have it ready before then. If so, if not, it'll have to wait until after I come back. And so, part of me was like, oh God, I hope she can get it together. Well, she said, oh, I can get it together tomorrow. Come on by. So the next day we drive out, we go through the contract, again, go over those minimum requirements. There are 2 options for payment. So one, you can upfront the money and then be reimbursed after inspection, or there is a payment plan that you can submit. I don't know exactly how it works because we opted just to pay for it up front and get reimbursed in one lump sum. But there is a payment plan that you can do, like X amount of dollars, then they'll reimburse you, and then so on and so forth, so that you don't have to come out with that money up front. We then, after we signed everything, I came back. We called, last week we called the vendor, and Mr. Daydream, of course, had some changes to what he wanted after really drawing it out and thinking about it, what he wanted to add, what he wanted to, retrofit. We wanted to also upgrade from a 5 mil to a 6 mil, because there is like a 4-year warranty on it. So we took care of all of that. We did have to pay 50% of the total up front, so which we were prepared to do, and because we had already budgeted for that. So we had to put down 50%. It will take 5 weeks for them to get the kit together. They do offer a delivery, but I mean, Mr. Daydream has his big work truck and a trailer, so we are going to go pick it up ourselves. And that saved us quite a bit of money too, just doing that. And so that we're going to have that. It should be, they said 5 weeks, so we're looking at the first week of June. That we should be able to, the first or second week of June, we should be able to go pick it up. So that's exciting. So my total cost out of pocket that we will not get reimbursed for is right at $1,000. Y'all, the program is worth it. And I know a lot of folks are like, oh, but I don't want the government in my business. It's a government program. Y'all, I really and truly did have this conversation with someone, because I was like, okay, but you have a social security number and you have a driver's license. The government, and you pay taxes. The government knows who you are. Let's be real. That kind of stuff I just don't play into. That does not concern me. I'm looking at it from the point is that my tax dollars fund this agency and it funds these programs, and so I want to be able to take advantage of that. So I am excited over it. We will have some work to do. I'm definitely going to have a learning curve. I will update you more once we pick it up and we start building. I will bring you along on that. And we'll talk more about the vendor that we used once I get to know them and their work. I will tell you, the vendor that we chose, I feel pretty confident in. The Facebook group I'm in, everybody talked about how great they were, how much help they received. So I'm very optimistic there. But right now, we're just in a waiting pattern. I think Mr. Daydream's going to do a little bit of prep work on the ground, not a whole lot. We're going to figure out, we've got to figure out the soil issue. I got to kill weeds in it. So like we got some prep work we're going to go do, but yeah, this is, it's just been a long time. It's been a long process. And again, the only reason it was a long process is because I missed the deadline the first time, and because I didn't find out about the program until the end. But I would highly encourage you, if the NRCS has that program in your area, to go check it out, if you have space to put a high tunnel. So yeah, that's where we are. I'm excited for it. I think I think I'm going to push the envelope in some things. When I think about sunflowers and starting them much earlier, already started by the end of February. I'm thinking like, can I go February 1st? I'm thinking about, should I do my tulips in there? Anyway, look, and here's the thing. I am not afraid to kill stuff because obviously that's what happens. I mean, I saw something, a meme or a quote, or somebody said, the difference between a good gardener and a great gardener is that a great gardener has killed a lot of plants. And I'm like, oh, then I must be freaking fantastic. So, anyway, thanks for hanging in there with me. I will update you all as soon as I know more. So, hopefully, the next time we talk about the high tunnel, we'll be on our way to pick it up. All right, folks, y'all have a great week, and we'll chat again soon.